Y'all. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. This is a completely new setup, so you guys are gonna have to be a little bit patient. Okay, we're figuring some things out. We have a new setup, but I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. How are you doing today, the OCPD coach? Uh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's Virgo season yet. I think maybe like towards the 28th. I think. I don't know. Oh, your birthday's coming up? Oh, wow. Okay, hold on. So the people in the chat are saying they can't hear you. Now, Justin Justin rigged this. So I need Justin to fix it. Cuz I don't why can't they hear you? That's not what it's supposed to be. Um if I mute unmute, try speaking now. Let's see. Can you guys hear him now? Um, yeah, like I told you guys, you still can't hear? Okay. Justin fixed this stream up for me, so I don't even know how to go about fixing this. That's insane. Okay, let's let's see. What if I remove you and then add you back? Let's let's see. How about now? Can y'all hear can y'all hear him now? See, we're figuring things out. We're figuring things out. Please bear with us. Um, I don't know how Justin did this. So, wait, hold on. I think, okay, say something now.
Testing.
Okay, can you guys hear him now? Can y'all say,
Yeah,
say
I'm
a few
good.
more things?
I'm good. I'm good. I can hear myself.
Okay. Now we
No,
got it. Now we're cooking
I
with
give y'all the
grease.
rundown. First of all, thank y'all for letting us know that you couldn't hear me. Second of all, happy to be here. and it's almost Virgo season. That's the synopsis of what I just said. So we here, y'all. Let's have a good conversation.
Yeah, and I didn't know your birthday was coming up. That's so funny because my birthday's coming up too. I'm on the 2nd of September.
Yeah, Virgos. I remember we talked about that the
Hey.
first time we all talked with Justin, and I was trying to remember. I couldn't remember what his sign was, but yeah, a lot of people you start to see similar tendencies based off of whatever the traits are. I actually believe in that horoscope stuff. That could be a whole nother conversation one day.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've bought into the juice yet. Okay, I don't know if I drank the juice on that one yet.
I
But y'all,
got
we're
you.
gonna have a really good stream. Today is actually a very important topic. I think that we as Americans, we don't talk enough about this because, in my opinion, and we can all have a conversation and figure out if we agree or disagree. But in my opinion, our freedoms are slowly but surely being stripped from us. Okay, the very things that we hold near and dear as Americans, that thing that sets us apart from most other nations, is slowly but surely being taken away from us. And I ask the question, do Americans want freedom or do we want comfort? Because too often, I have conversations with people that claim to be patriots. They claim to be, I love America, America. But then when certain conversations are had, it seems like they care more about being comfortable than they do about actually fighting and upholding those very freedoms that all of our ancestors, if you are foundational to America, all of our ancestors have worked hard to create and protect those freedoms. So we're gonna get into it, okay? We're gonna get into it because it's a hard conversation, just like you said, Lexi. It's a hard topic. It's easy to be comfy, and it's important to have freedom. Yeah. So let's first start by talking about what comes to mind when we hear the word freedom. So Shannon, what comes to mind when you hear the word freedom?
All right, I'm trying. I'm gonna try not to be too deep. So when I
No,
think about the
you can
word
be really
freedom, I think
deep.
about the ability to the ability to do anything that you want to do, that you can actually do, right? So I can't just say, oh, I can fly. Since I can't fly, I'm not free. I don't think that's the case. But anything that you are capable of doing, you can do it. Now you're gonna get side effects or consequences based off of those. So it's not saying you can go and hurt somebody and get away with it with nothing. It's just you have that choice, so you can do whatever you want to do with it. So that's what when I hear freedom, that's what I think about.
Very interesting. Um, and I tend
About
to
you?
agree with you. I tend to agree with you. So, when it comes to freedom, freedom doesn't mean free from consequence. I think that's something to also add to that. Just because you're free to, say and do certain things doesn't mean that you are consequence free. And now that's where things get a little bit tricky because when do those consequences, step in? Right? For instance, when we talk about freedom of speech, some people think that if you misgender somebody, you should be locked up, and I don't agree with that whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, there
That's the
are
thing.
yes, there are people that want you to be either fined or do prison time because you misgender somebody. And so that's
That is
where
crazy.
that's where that consequence and freedom to do so, that line needs to be made very clear because as soon as we start implementing certain things, like for instance, I personally don't think that you should go to jail if you say racially disparaging things. I don't think that you should, because that's a slippery slope, right? That leads into, well, now once you say this, now we can lock you up for this. And I
That's
try not to
literally against freedom of
romanticize.
speech.
Exactly, exactly. So, when we talk about those consequences, it's like, where do those consequences start? Where do they end? And how do we maintain our freedom while also holding people accountable when they need to be held accountable, right? So,
Yeah.
mm,
Can I ask you a question real quick before we get
yeah,
too deep? I got
absolutely.
a question based off what you said originally. You said it seems like our freedoms are being taken away or slowly being taken away. I want to know what freedoms are you talking about? Can you list like maybe like two or three, because I'm just trying to get caught up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that, and I'll kind of roll this back to back in the 2000s, right? So, if we all remember the Patriot Act, okay, and that really stripped us of a lot of the freedom to privacy that we had. And this is what kind of leads me into this conversation, because I remember having conversations with people around that time, and a lot of them, what they would say is, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't care. That was their response to this. Oh, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't care. And my whole thing is this: it's not about whether or not I have something to hide. That's my privacy. These are other humans. Okay. It's not like there's some like non sentient being that's handling all of this data. Like, no, these are actual humans who are subject to, their own whims, their own beliefs, their own ability to violate me based on whatever it is, whatever information they compiled, or you know what I mean? So that's one example of, like I said, those freedoms being deteriorated. And another thing is with like the misinformation, disinformation movement that we saw back in 2020, 2021, where if the government was like literally funding the censorship of the people. Okay, so if you had different viewpoints on like COVID and all these other things, you were silenced, you were banned off of platforms, things like that. So that directly affects our freedom of speech, if that makes sense.
Got it. Okay. So freedom of speech is a big one. Okay. No, that was me. I just needed a little more context so I can know which types of freedom we were talking about. So freedom of
Well,
speech and privacy.
we can get into any other freedoms as well. So if you had any that were on your mind, we can get dive into that too, because I don't romanticize our government, right? There's a lot of people who romanticize the government and think that it's not that all parties are wanting to take away our freedoms and have total control. They're like, well, my party doesn't want that. My party believes in democracy. My party this, my party that. Government in general wants to control everything, but we're at a state in America where they're trying to ease us into it. They want us to agree to our own subjugation, and so that's why you have a lot of different things coming down the pipeline to get us there. And that's why I asked that question: do we care? Do we want comfort, or do we want true freedom? That's kind of where this whole
Got it.
conversation is coming from. Um,
Oh
so
no, this is gonna be good.
yeah, it's definitely gonna be good. I've been itching to have this conversation for quite some time now. So I want to know: do you believe that freedom and comfort can truly exist, or do they inevitably I can't say that word, inevitably clash? What are words?
Freedom and comfort. See, that's man, free is yeah. The range when you talk about freedom is just such a wide covers so much stuff. And I think about a job. You know, I have a job where I have a great career. I work from home. I get amazing perks, all of this stuff, and I'm really free. I could come in. I'm free. I'm free to a degree, right? So I can. Well, no, actually, look, we're going back and say this is what I'm saying. It's a little deep for me. I am free to do anything. It's an at will, so you can literally quit. You can go. You can throw a pie in the CEO's face and deal with the consequences. You're free to do that, but there will be consequences. So for me, I'm comfortable with the amount of freedom that I have, if that makes sense. And that is where I'm like, I'm really trying to think of examples where it would. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I hate saying I don't know and stuff, but I honestly would have to have a better example or more specific example to talk about if it could coexist. I'll tell you this: freedom of speech. If we're talking freedom of speech, we have so many things that we can get canceled over nowadays. So we are free to say what we want, as far as nobody can literally force your mouth closed, but you get punished in different ways. And now for me, it's really hard to be comfortable when I just want to have a conversation. I think we talked last week about it was a terminology spasm,
Yeah.
and now that's a that's a what they say derogatory term. And because I'm so out of this loop of trying to police everybody and what they say, I've had no idea that was even a canceled word. So I could now just have a conversation, say that word, and be punished for something, even though I have, that. So that makes me uncomfortable. So I have freedom of speech, but I'm uncomfortable. I know I'm rambling a little bit, y'all. Y'all missed this
No,
part when
you're
the mic was
good.
off. I'm tired. When I'm tired, I ramble a lot. So if I get too far, y'all just pull me back in.
No, you're good. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I agree. That's extremely uncomfortable. I grew up in a time, we're roughly the same age, give or take, you know, and I grew up in a time where we said all kinds of stuff. Okay. We said the R word, we said the F word, we said all these words to each other and nobody cared. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this big deal. It was just like, kids being able to have fun and just talk, you know, play the dozens, different things like that. But now you could be having a conversation where everybody in that conversation consents to it, right? Everyone in that conversation is comfortable with the type of language that is being spoken. But because somebody that is an outsider hears you speaking this way and they don't like it, then they want to be able to tell you that you have to stop having your conversation, that you have to tailor your conversation to their comfort level. And that makes me, just like you, it makes me very uncomfortable because like we talked about, they keep springing new things on us that we're supposed to know. Like I was just watching, and this ties into it. I was just watching a video by Think Before You Sleep. And he was talking about how there is this content creator that literally goes out and tries to and basically harasses waiters and waitresses. And so he was at Disneyland or Disney World, one of those places in Florida. I forget which one is which because it's like Disney World
Disney
or
World.
Disney. That was
We
my
got Disney
favorite.
World. California, it has Disneyland.
Okay, I get confused with that all the time. But the one in Florida, and he was had a waiter where English wasn't even their first language. Like English was not even his first language. And so, this transgender person was like, "Oh, well, you called me sir, so now I'm uncomfortable with this." And the guy didn't understand cuz he's not of this language. Like this is not his first language. So he's trying to understand what to do and what to say in these situations. And it's like he's getting bullied in this
Yeah,
situation for not knowing. And he could have lost his job because, certain companies are very liberal leaning and they take that stuff very seriously. So just because he does not know, it's not his language. And this is a relatively new thing, you know, policing this sector of language and pronouns and things like that. So it's just like, you know, what are we talking about here?
yeah,
Not everybody is going to be privy to all the new policed words that we can't say.
yeah, yeah. And it sucks because the bag. We talk about the bag. You can literally fumble the bag just off of giving your opinion, and if your opinion does not appease a single group, you can be punished for that. And it doesn't have to be physical. I'm talking money. I'm talking about literally losing a job, losing a sponsorship on YouTube. If you say certain words, even if they're not meant in a derogatory way, you can lose funding on a video. So now that has been the way that the world has really tried to quiet everybody. And I will tell you, I really like the streamers, and I think that's why I actually like. I know that's crazy, but I actually like Donald Trump more this time around than I did 4 years ago. And Justin probably knows because we talked about it. But because I dealt with so much of that bull crap for 4 years, where it was just you couldn't say anything, da 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 da. I appreciate somebody who could just if you feel like this and you say that's how you feel, even if we don't agree, I can respect that. Now we can't even have disagreements and still be cordial anymore. I mean, you have a disagreement with somebody you've been cool with for 15 years, and now you just throw the whole relationship away. So yeah, it's real sad. Look at Justin talks with LOL. Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's insane. Like, people are getting so emotional when it comes to, like you said, disagreements. Like, there were so many crash out videos after the election of people saying that they're not even going to like interact with their family members anymore because they voted differently, or if they even suspect, like, even if they even suspect that you voted for the opposite side, then they're, saying, oh, all these obscene things, wishing terrible things happen to you. I get accused of that all the time. Oh, you voted for Trump. Whole time I voted for the couch. Like, I voted for the couch. So, it's just it's
Right.
insane. Everyone's gone to these super extremes. But the thing that we always, especially as Americans, we have to keep in mind is that both sides are going to try to walk us into giving up our very freedoms, because the whole point of government in today's day and age and every day and age is to have control. And they found that throughout history, whenever you take control of the people, they will fight you. Okay, they're going to fight you. You're
Mhm.
going to have revolution. You're going to have people in the streets. They're going to be fighting for their rights because you're taking it. So, what we're dealing with now is they're trying to get us to consent to giving away our freedom. And that's the part that's so insidious about all of this, because they're using it as the guise of, we're trying to protect you, right? We're trying to protect you. This is for your protection, just like with the Patriot Act. Oh, we're scanning through the phone calls to look for this and to look for that, and it's to protect you. Whole time, whole time, that's not the overall goal. It's like it's a bait and switch. Okay, it's a complete and utter bait and switch. But for some reason we seem to be falling for it. And I want to get your opinion on this, because I've said this on my channel. Do you think the Americans of today would have fought the British back then?
No, I think I heard you say this before. I don't know if we talked about it here or not, but no, we are better at fighting inanimate objects than we are actually fighting for anything. Think about most of these riots that took place, even when we go back to the BLM stuff. I remember I was really, obviously I'm a black man. I was definitely pro BLM because I wanted everybody to understand my life mattered and Black Lives Matter also. So for me, I was so pissed off. Sorry, I'm doing home improvement projects, y'all. I got glue all on myself. No, I was so pissed off by the way that we don't actually take action the way that action should be taken. And then even this, I'll say one more thing. I think we're in a much different time now where the way action would have been dealt with back then, where whatever the Boston Tea Party, all the different revolutions that happened back then, now we have different means of fighting. Now there are actual channels that you go through to get things pushed. And when you do stuff like that, when you just we were destroying our own cities. I mean, looting, just stealing, like people were just looking for reasons to steal clothes. It seems like that's more what I got from it. So now I don't even when I see them, I don't even take them serious when I see the riots, when I see them because they're not actually actively fighting for anything. Sometimes people just wake up and want to go cause chaos. If you actually want to fight, I don't see. I would see a lot more. What's the what is the name of that game, man? Stop killing games. They had a whole petition for it, and they had over 100,000 people sign it. Now they can actually move that up into law. People were actually doing the research. We more of the people that were outward, outwardly showing all of this emotion. I don't. I didn't see the same. I didn't see the same energy put into actual channels that can make a change. So I don't think we would because I don't think we actually fight for a cause. I think we just fight because we want to fight sometimes. Sometimes we just want to steal. Sometimes we just want to cause chaos. Sometimes we get bored. But I don't think we really fight for a cause the way we should.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. It almost reminds me of the conversation around influencer justice warriors. How they think because they posted a TikTok that all of a sudden, they've done their parts. Okay. This hyper focus on awareness as opposed to actually solving problems. Um, that's what comes to mind when I hear you speak about this, because folks folks will conflate being loud with getting change, right? They'll conflate we did this big old spectacle with actually changing policy. And with the whole BLM situation, that was such a fumble because with policing, and I've talked about this at length, with policing there is a huge problem that needs to be addressed, and it's not an issue that needed to be racialized, because there are a lot
Right.
of white folks, folks of Latino folks, all sorts of folks that get hemmed up by the police unjustly, and there's no justice for them, like I said, unjustly. And we had an opportunity to really get things moving with that, get things fixed. But unfortunately, everything got racialized. And we all know that people tend to go towards tribalism. So, that was just an unnecessary hurdle added to getting police reform that actually works. And it just derailed everything. So it's more about putting on a spectacle than it is actually getting change. Because if we truly cared about change, we would put our personal feelings aside. We would put aside our desire to be the main character with everything. And then we would actually focus on getting legislation passed, having that legislation enforced, um, to actually solve and fix these problems. So I want
Yeah.
I want to get your opinion on this. So how do you think the American dream kind of fits into, our rights, our freedoms? How does our American dream fit into that?
An American dream, you're talking what? The house, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, dog, car, all of that, or you talk about
The
something
whole
else?
shebang, the whole shebang. The reason why people are hopping the border to come over here, the reason why everyone's rushing to come be in America for that American dream.
Okay, and ask me that question one more time because I think I have something deep on this and I didn't even know. So you said, how
Yes.
does the American dream get impacted by the freedom and comfort, or
Hmm.
what was it again?
Yeah. So our American dream, how does that fit into the concept of having our freedoms? How closely related is it? And will we give up our freedoms for that comfort? And would that be part of the American dream at that point? Just to have that comfort, even if it denies us our freedoms?
That's a good question, but I'm trying to. This is the thing about freedom. I think the more leverage you have, the more assets, the more money, the more network connections you have, you don't make yourself invincible to losing your freedoms, but you definitely have more to fight with versus somebody who, let's say, is, I'll just throw out a homeless person, because as a homeless person, they might not have the same tools. But when you flip it on the other side, and this is why I said it's kind of interesting that you said this, the more you have, the more you have to lose. And it makes it really, you have to think much longer when you decide to fight, because you have to decide what are you willing to lose for this fight. The old thing we used to say, are you willing to die on this hill, right? So that's changed my mindset. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I was dirt poor and all that stuff growing up. No, I wasn't. But I did grow up in Detroit. I lived next to an abandoned home for probably 8 or 9 years. We had different types of people walking up and down the street. And even my dad's situation was, it was even worse over there. So that was a situation where I didn't really have much to lose outside of my life. I didn't have any money, I didn't have any assets, I didn't have anything. Now you go forward, and now I do think I'm living the American dream. at this point outside of having one kid. But so for me, having everything that we mentioned, a home and all of the different things, now I have to think twice with anything I do, because any mistake can be me losing my life, which screws up my son and my wife. Outside of, you cover them, but my son could get hurt, my wife could get hurt when I'm in the mall, and a certain type of altercation. I can't just react as if it was just me at the bottom, because now somebody could sue me. Somebody could say, okay, we want to come for your home, we want to come for your business. Like, now you have a lot more to lose. So I definitely think it's that dichotomy. It's you have more tools that you can fight with, because now I could afford a lawyer if I needed to. Now I can afford to have insurance. Now I can afford to say, you know what? I'm tired of them spying, or trying to force me to agree with everything that they want me to agree. They want me to agree with ads. So I'm going to go ahead and pay the extra so I don't have to have ads. Now you have these different resources. You didn't have that back then. I mean, sorry, you don't have. I didn't have that back then. You don't have that if you have less. So that's my thought. That's my If I answered that correctly, that's where I'm sitting.
Yeah, that was very interesting. So essentially we have we have almost like a caste system where our freedoms are scalable. You know,
Yeah,
the
they
freedoms we
really are.
have are scalable, given
Yeah,
how many resources you have. Because like if you bring up the person that's homeless, if they get hemmed up, they can't afford a lawyer. They have to get the court appointed
right.
lawyer who is just going to run them
Yes.
through the system. So
Mhm.
and
Let me let me add one more. Oh, am I freezing? I think I'm freezing. Hold on. Okay, I'm good. Let me add one more though, because you brought up a really great point. Think about abductions, and I'm not trying to get sensitive here, or be insensitive here. So I hope that it doesn't come across like that. But think about a billionaire who has their child abducted, and the amount of resources that would go into that, versus Joe off the block who's just living, and his child is abducted the same way. It could be the same people who abducted him, but because of where he is in life, he might not have the same resources. He can't pay the news to go and talk about it. He can't pay the police officers or private investigators. You don't have the same. So that to me is where I just scale that up with freedom. It's much easier to lose your freedoms. You go to jail for stuff like that. Rome King, what's going on? So no, you just brought up a great point, so I had to add that too.
no, definitely. It's just it's and see that that kind of brings us into, if we're talking about how these freedoms that we have, if it's given to us in and by the Constitution, then it's like, why is it that our freedoms in that sense are scalable? Because if we're all American, well, not all of us, but if we're American citizens and we're supposed to be protected by the Constitution and all these freedoms that we're supposed to have, then why is it that the impact of those freedoms or the strength of those freedoms depends on how many resources you have, the access to resources that you have? And a great example of that is like with the justice system. Like we said about a homeless person, if they get locked up and they want to fight for their freedom, they have to rely on public defenders who don't always defend the public. Like, a lot of these different people are
Mhm.
clicked in. And that level of corruption, and I might put my tin hat on with this, that level of corruption is absolutely sick to me. You have prosecutors and defense lawyers, they go and they'll argue in court, but then they get lunch together right afterwards and talking about how they're going to screw you over in the court of
Mm.
law. It's quite insane. And I think oftentimes we tend to try our best not to think about these things because it's a little bit, it brings a lot of discomfort, right? It brings a lot of discomfort. um but if we want to really have that conversation about what Americans truly prioritize, then we need to think about the different crises that we've had. And I've kind of mentioned this before, when we had 9/11, and to the victims and their families of that event. I know it's been so long, but never forgotten. Okay, never forgotten
Mhm.
all the victims from 9/11 and their families. But after that incident, a lot of American citizens were willing, okay, very much so willing to give up certain freedoms in an effort to guarantee or try to guarantee safety and comfort. Again, when we had COVID, a lot of people gave up their freedom to even just leave their house, to, leave their house and not be forced to wear masks and all these different things, all because of the pandemic. And it really has me asking that question, do we truly prioritize our freedom, or are we prioritizing our comfort? Now, how,
I,
how do you feel about all of that?
yeah, because I haven't answered that question yet, that specific question. And I think we prioritize comfort. And I think the reason why we even say freedom is because freedom makes us comfortable, right? And you even see it. I'm okay. I got you. Think about growing up as a kid. And let's say you're 16 years old growing up. And at this point, you can probably go and live on your own. It's gonna be hard though. And let's say your parents aren't doing anything wrong, but they have rules. They say we need you here at a certain time. If you're living here, we need you to go to school. We need you to clean up, do your chores, whatever it is. At that point, you really answer your own question, because if it was really about freedom, then that 16-year-old would say, no matter what the circumstances are, I'm moving out. I'm gonna eat my losses. I'm gonna find a way to make it and be uncomfortable, but I'm free. And that is most times, you have circumstance, but most times 16-year-olds are going to just put up with whatever it is and be uncomfortable a little bit, but they're not as uncomfortable as they would be had they decided to choose the freedom. So I definitely think we always go for comfort. And even what you just said, think about going to what is a place, not an airport, but there's another place where you go and they have security where you can't take weapons in. It's I'm thinking about a bank.
Yeah, bank,
Think about
schools.
a bank. Mhm. Think about a bank. Oh yeah. Hey man, we looping this all the way around, right? A bank. When you go to a bank and they have the glass doors where you can't really do anything, bulletproof glass for the most part. You already know that you're taking your gun out and you're giving up some of your freedom of being able to carry your gun because of whatever the case might be. But I think it doesn't matter as much because we are comfortable. When you go into that bank, you know that because you had to put up your gun, that means nobody else in there should have a gun either. When you go on the air in an airport, when you go in, you're getting everything scanned, you're assuming that nobody else is either. So it makes you more comfortable. I think you have the issue where it really becomes a conflict when you say, okay, I don't have access to this, but somebody else does. And we're in the same place. So I can't get to my gun because I was told I can't. But this person over here who's not a guard, not an officer, can have their gun. That's when I think you have the conflict of now it feels like my specific freedom is being taken away. And that's when I think people really have an issue with losing freedom.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because with all these conversations around legal firearms, and I understand there being a need to figure out who should have a legal firearm and who should not have a legal firearm, because some people are crazy. Okay, some people are absolutely crazy and they should not have their hands on a firearm, whereas the rest of us who are not insane in the membrane and have good intentions and are getting our firearms legally, all of that, it seems like some of the overreach with that. Well, you can't have your gun here, well, you can't have your gun there. Well, guess who doesn't give a damn about you telling them they can't have their gun here and there? The very people we need the guns to protect ourselves
Yeah,
from. So,
exactly.
it's just like I said, like everyone wants to kind of walk us slowly, swiftly into a state where we're not allowed to defend ourselves. That's how it is in certain areas, like in New York City. If someone is attacking you and you defend yourself, you're gonna get in trouble. If you have a business and somebody is
Yeah.
terrorizing your business and
Gotta
stealing
let them.
from you, you have to just let them take it, and you
Hmm.
have no recourse. You can't defend your property. You can't defend what is yours. And if you do, you're in trouble. They might get they're allowed to walk scot free. A lot of folks, they commit crimes and it's like a revolving door. They get sent right back out to go continue committing crimes. So, but if you were to respond, then now you hemmed up for 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, you got
Yeah.
issues for the next few years. So this is why this conversation is so important, because it's like, if I my personal belief, and this is where I am, when we have freedom, I think that there is comfort in being free, right? The comfort in being free. If somebody is violating me and I am free to whoop their ass, I am free to defend myself, I am free to defend my family, that brings me comfort, because I shouldn't have to worry about, if I defend my family, I'm going to get sent to prison and not even be able to be with my family that I just defended. You know what I'm saying?
See, and that's where I see. I'm gonna look up the laws because I'm interested now that you say it. I was under the assumption that if you somebody went and touched your family and then you reacted, you would get in trouble for it, which is the craziest thing to me. Because if I'm with my wife, it shouldn't matter if she got physically actually hit. If somebody touches her and she felt uncomfortable, I should be able to do something. Now that's but that's where I now we get into the intricacies of what freedom is, because it's freedom, conditional freedom, right? Or we sorry, freedom with these consequences that don't always add up. And I want to add something back to the gun thing. I'm gonna let you keep going with what you were saying, but I want to say something about the gun thing afterwards.
No, no. What were you wanting to say?
So when we talked about the freedom, and this was my biggest issue that I was when Trump came and they did they were doing the violent immigrants. I was really happy about that because just from the research I've been doing, and not just the news channels, but the people who were actually living in New York City, them talking about it. It made it seem as if people who were here illegally, who had just got shipped over under whatever that act was, I can't remember what it was, seem to have more rights than we do living here. And I remember I saw the video and they had full automatic rifles and they're just sitting on the block. The police couldn't go do anything. It was a sanctuary, the sanctuary cities. To me, that is what when I mentioned about the freedom, the personal freedom, where it's like, okay, so they can do this and not have any consequence. But if I were to go and get these same weapons, I would be facing jail time. So now it's automatically going to pit you against these individuals because of the other freedoms that they get when we're here. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but you know how it is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That reminds me of everything that was happening in Colorado. That was a really big situation. I don't know if you heard about that, with the apartment complexes being taken over by
Oh, I saw that.
Trinidad, right? So you had these militarized illegal aliens taking over entire buildings, and the residents, when they called the police said they couldn't do anything about it. So
Hmm.
it's just like, what are we talking about here? That's where I believe, not having certain freedoms definitely makes it more uncomfortable, at least for me, especially as a law-abiding citizen, right? As a
Hmm.
law-abiding citizen, we should have our freedom to protect ourselves, protect our property. And it's getting to the point where even, I got some slack on my channel for saying this, but even the woke right, okay, that's what I'm calling them the
Oh,
woke
right.
right.
Wow.
Because
I haven't
they're
heard that one.
advocating for the craziest things. There was a situation where a black man, and they're doing it all because of race, which is so insane to me. There was a black man who was sleeping in his house. It was like either 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Some white teens went and tried to kick his door in, and he shot at them, and then they arrested him.
Was that in Florida?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which state that was in.
The
It was
story sounds familiar. That story sounds familiar, and
yeah.
they said they were doing a prank where they just kick on people's
That's what
doors,
they
and they were
claimed.
supposed to, yeah, they
They
supposed to
claimed
let
it
it,
was a
but,
prank. A prank.
but yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, I think I know what story you talk about, and I said that's crazy because I would be in the same situation. So I was kicking my door down, but in Florida, you have to stand your ground law.
And that's
So
the
here's
part.
yeah, it's a lot different. If we start to feel that threat, we can act. So you got a whole nother conversation here that you can go on, which is racial freedom. Because even that, I already said last time I don't call racism, but we're not going to ignore that racial preferential treatment exists in the world, and we're not going to act like that does not exist. But you
Right.
have a whole nother topic, and I didn't know if you were going to go here with it, where the level of freedom and comfort are different based off your race. I don't think this is something that, and also gender, obviously, but especially race. It's certain stuff that I can watch I can see somebody walking with a hoodie on, a gray hoodie and sweatpants, and they're walking in a nice neighborhood. Now, depending on the race of that person, you're going to, and this is from looking from the outside in, but then imagine how that person feels as far as their comfort and their freedoms. People are going to look and say, "Oh, that looks out of place," or "No, that looks just right." They're just going for a job. Now that
Exactly. Yeah.
individual, if they are the it looked out of place race, might have the police called on them. And now they have to decide, and this is what we talked about the comfort. We're already going to be uncomfortable, but now you have to say, okay, my freedom is I shouldn't have to stop because whatever you got a call and I'm not doing anything wrong, walking my dog, whatever you might think your freedom is, you should be able to mind your business. But because of the situation you're in now, you have to think if I do this, I might lose my life. So now you have to trade in freedom for comfort here, and you're still not. So that's what I'm saying. It's a whole nother layer of dynamics that go with the freedom and comfort when you talk about race and all of that stuff. It gets scary with that. It does.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the example of the hoodie and how, one person wearing it, it looks like they might be trying to do something dangerous. They might be, trying to do something dangerous, whereas it could look like athletic wear, which at the core of it,
Right.
that's what it is. A hoodie and sweatpants that's athletic wear. So, and that kind of ties into the other conversation we were having about respectability politics and things like that, how certain things viewed when black people do it is viewed a certain way. And I understand, and a lot of people assume that I don't understand this, but I understand that we should be able to do certain things, right? You should be able to walk down the street in a nice neighborhood in a hoodie and some sweatpants because you are going for a job. As a black
Right.
person, you're just minding your business. You just, or it's cold. Maybe you cold. You want to wear a hoodie, and it shouldn't be an issue. But because of the climate that we live in, it's like, do we try to die on that hill right now where we have no leverage to even fix these problems, outside of hoping that everybody else is empathetic enough with us to give us that leverage to fight these problems? Or do we move with more tact given the situation that we're in? And
Mhm.
again, that is that conversation about comfort and freedom. So I guess I get, and this is a complicated topic. So, you know, depending on what we're talking about, it's like, will am I willing to be uncomfortable for the purpose of getting through my day without having disruptions, right? So like, for instance, I'm sure it's very comfortable to just leave your bonnet on your head and walk out your house. I'm sure it's extremely comfortable to do that. But will I be doing that? No.
Right.
Will I be doing that? No, I'm not going to do that, because at the end of the day, certain outcomes, if I'm looking for certain outcomes, then I have to go with the option that's going to give me those outcomes, even if it's not as comfortable. So it's just, Whew, this is a tough topic when we talk about our freedoms and our comfort, because at certain points, comfort is more important. At other points, your freedom is more important. At some points, they're both equally important, but they conflict. So,
Yeah,
I want us to get into how the younger generations, how we perceive the younger generations, um, their relationship with freedom. Okay, their relationships with freedom and the ability to do as you please. It is my understanding and view that a lot of the younger generations, they don't care.
yeah.
As time goes on, they could care less. The government could tell them that, hey, we're no longer doing XYZ. You're not allowed to do XYZ, and they'll just tweet about it and not do XYZ.
Oh,
I
you going
yeah.
that way? That's interesting.
Yeah,
I lean a different way.
I think the younger generation is very malleable. What the government says they want them to do, um, they're willing to do it in mass. If the propaganda tells them to do that, they will do that.
Uh, See, I don't have enough data. And that's the only thing I don't have, and I wish I had it now. But I see the young streamers, and the young streamers to me, they give everybody in that group a bad look. I mean, even people in our age bracket talking about people. What's the guy's name that does the Johnny Somali? I've never watched a single stream, but I see people talk about his content. Jack Doherty, Neon's a lot better now, but he used to be man. He was I've seen some clips of him and it was insane. And when I see people like that and the stuff that they do, like just walking around, and then they hire personal bodyguards so they can get away with anything that they try to do or say. That is when I say, man, that is if that is the representation, and that's what I'm saying. I don't have the data to say a lot of them are like that, but if that is the representation, I think that they are actually they feel more free than they actually are, if that makes it. They feel free of consequences. That's what it is. There's
Mm-hmm.
this ignorance and freedom of consequences when you can go and say something to somebody and get in their face and they say security and not have to deal with the consequences. That is what and these are big time streamers. I'm talking about a few of these guys who are what millions and all of that. It's different. Even OnlyFans, and this is crazy. I'm about to talk about this right now because I've never been on the site, but I've heard about the metrics of these different people who are on this site. And it was a young lady who she just turned 18 recently and
Sandra
had
Faye.
yeah, her. She had I don't know the exact numbers, but it was she made over $1 million easily, right? So and she said people pre-ordered. So
Yeah.
people that's another creepy topic. But the reason I said that is the fact that OnlyFans is becoming more. It's like a commonplace topic now, where you can ask a young lady where she works, and she might just say I do OnlyFans, and you are flipping the coin. So when you say stuff like that, I think that even thinking like that is the freedom. Like this is my body. I do what I want. I express it. I monetize it. Is everybody's just like I do what I want. I say what I want. Even the younger generation says they say the N word more than people of our generation said it, and they say it. They're not even black. I'm talking about Neon saying it as an actual what is it called a bit. So nowadays it's just I'm seeing it where people are these young folks are reckless and they think they are free of any consequence as long as they have money, which is back to the thing we talked about earlier. When you have more resources, you have more to lose, but you also have more that you can keep your freedoms with. That's walking examples. Neon got arrested in Dubai. Like he went to jail in Dubai, but because he was connected to Aiden Ross was able to get him out. And that was why I mentioned network connections is one of the things that can help you keep your freedom. That literally helped him get his freedom back. That's crazy how they just went full circle.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you in a sense, but I feel like their willingness to be rowdy all depends on whatever propaganda machine they're listening to, right? So, a lot of the younger generation were really pushing for the masks during the lockdowns. They were like, "Well, just do it. Just wear the
I
mask."
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Just
So
wear
you
the
said, yeah,
mask.
yeah, they easy. I get what you're saying when you say marry. They're like infant minded. Whatever you say, will do.
Yeah,
Naive,
very naive.
naive.
And that's
I
not to
get you.
say that all are like that. Obviously, I don't paint anybody with one brush to say all, but I think that there is a large portion that they've been indoctrinated um, into you know what's so funny? What's so funny is that when we have the conversation about media and news, it's like the older generations, they listened to CBS, MSNBC, and they believed everything that they heard on these news networks, even if it was just flat out lies. And then we get to like our generation where we start stepping away from that, and we're leaning towards looking at various sources for our news and things like that. And now with the younger generation, they're getting all their news from influencers who are then also skewing the truth. And they're
Right.
they're going full throttle with that. And because of it, I think this freedom that you were speaking of, freedom to do what they please, I think it's more so the illusion of freedom than it is actual freedom. Right? So if I were a manipulative, crazy, wanting control over everything type of person and being, I would give you the illusion that you have freedom based on things. And see, this isn't even just with this is something that they teach you when you're learning to be a teacher, right? Especially with younger children. Give them control over things that don't matter. So,
Right.
for instance, if I'm teaching a child about their ABCs and one, two, threes, if I know that we're going to discuss letter A, B, and C, I might give them the option of, well, what do you want to talk about first, A, B, or C? And then either way, we're going to talk about all three, but I'll give you that choice of which one we'll talk about first. And it's a way of giving, children a sense of control over the situation. Whole time, it's a meaningless choice. It means nothing. So I
And
feel
that's,
like, yeah. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say what you just said. Another example I thought about was being a. If you have any younger siblings, or do you have older brothers by chance?
I'm the younger sibling. I have an older sister.
Oh, this okay. So it might be different. Justin might know what I'm talking about if he had any older cousins or anything. But I had a younger brother, and my other brother and I, one of us, we were the same age, but our other brother was like 8 years younger. So anytime we played video games, we would give him the disconnected controller, and that's basically what you're saying is that's how it is they're using blank controllers. Now, when we talk about the illusion of freedom, that is where I want to talk more about that, because if it's an individual and they say I'm free to identify as I want. So if I want to be a tree, I identify as a tree. I can go and do whatever I want to do with my body for money. So you can't shame me for it anymore, because now I'm normalizing it. I can literally walk out with no clothes on nowadays and be seen as somebody who's independent and free and confident. And also I get to go on social media and say anything I want to say and have people follow me. What about that makes them not free?
Hmm.
Where's the freedom restricted for them is what I'm asking.
So with that, when we talk about like which office is in power, right? Because when we were going through the election and we were going through like Trump getting elected and all those different things, a lot of those freedom of speech things kind of started coming back, not fully, but they start coming back to where once Elon Musk bought Twitter, you're able to say certain things again. You were able to do this, that, and the third with whoop. When I say the illusion, that means like let's say let's say uh, the Democrats get back in office after Trump, which most likely that's how the pendulum usually goes. It just goes back and forth. They play hot potato with it. Then they've already done the groundwork for certain things like with, and I don't want to harp on this subject, but like with misgendering and different things like that, or certain things being labeled as a slur, or even with fat acceptance, you're not supposed to call people obese anymore, saying that jokes are violent, different things like that when it comes to speech. That once that pendulum shifts back, then they've trained everyone. They've trained, especially the younger generation, they've trained them to be so hypersensitive about the words that they're using. So once the pendulum swings back into the court of liberals, Democrats, things like that, then we're going to see those policies that they've been trying to push forth come down the pipeline. And what we'll end up looking like is the UK. Okay, we'll end up looking like the UK. So while you may be able to say that my pronouns are microphone and water bottle, you might be able to say that my pronouns are this, but when it comes to how you interact in other spaces, now you're going to see that you're restricted. So if you, as your water bottle microphone self, now you are talking to another group where maybe you disagree, okay, and you have a dissenting opinion, guess what? Now you get to be silenced the same way you were silencing other people when it came to your pronouns. So it's gearing up for that. And that's why I say it's an illusion of freedom, because right now it's not targeting those people in particular, but it's setting the stage for whenever they're the dissenting opinion, the dissenting, view, then they get to get the same outcomes, if that makes sense.
Got you. But so based off that though, they will be free right now. Right now they will be free, but the freedom will be restricted in the future.
Essentially, that's why I say it's an illusion, because it's not affecting them right now. It's an illusion
Right.
of, oh, this is the freedoms that you have, you're able to do this, you're able to do that, but all of the pieces, if we're thinking about the game of chess, all of the pieces are being moved so that when the time is right, the hammer can be dropped down. And that's what a lot of people don't understand when they're fighting for certain causes. They don't understand the doors that they're opening, right? So, for instance, when we go back to the conversation about guns and the man that was defending his home, you had a lot of right wingers, and that's why I called them woke. You had a lot of right wingers that were arguing that he should be in jail, even though he was defending his property, all because the children that he shot at were looked like them, were white. And it's like, do you realize what you're arguing for? You're arguing
Yeah.
against your right to defend your home, because if he goes down and they set that precedent, guess what? You try to defend your home, and now what? They're going
Same
to point to
thing.
this case, and what are you going to say? You're going to say, "Oh, well, da 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 da." Well, if I pull up your old tweets, you were on board with this. So you have a lot of us have this illusion of what everything is, but what they fail to realize is the doors that they're actually opening. Okay, doors that will be shut in their face as soon as it
Pin drop.
serves, as soon as it serves our government, our governing bodies, then those freedoms would be wiped clean, because they didn't actually exist in the first place, and we advocated for those freedoms to not exist in the first place. I hope I'm making sense. I don't know if I'm making sense right
Now I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think under that construct, when I think about it, well, I think we all agree for the most part that all freedom is no freedom is really freedom. Like nobody in the world is truly free. Um, Even I talk about God and Jesus and everything, and how God, the one who created Earth, could send a child and himself in a man form, And even that version of him was not free, as the world would claim to be free, because he was persecuted and murdered. So when we talk about that, all the freedom is just it doesn't really exist. If it could ever be taken away, then you can't really ever say you had it. If they started doing martial law right now, then you were you ever really free if they could just do that? I don't think so. Now, if we're talking about, I'm not gonna get too deep, but we talk about the slave trade and different things like that, where you were in a situation where maybe it was and I know they actually had slaves that were already slaves, some of them that were being sold. But if you were, you ever seen the movie 12 Years a Slave?
When that movie came out, I was already on the kick of I'm avoiding all these slave movies because it was just
Yeah.
too much conditioning for, that victim mentality. Not to say that we can't understand history, but there's so much. It's just at that point I was done.
So,
I stopped watching those
so
movies and Tyler Perry movies around the same time.
yeah, that makes sense. And in that movie, I'll just break it down real quick. It was a man who was living a free life, who got kidnapped, drugged, and kidnapped, and taken. I think it was down south, and turned into a slave. So he was a regular man living with his normal freedoms, who was taken and turned into a slave. And to me, that's a little bit of a different situation when we talk about the freedoms that person might have, because that was literally somebody came and took you out of your situation to take your freedoms away. But I'm talking about just us living now. We don't really have the freedom could be taken away at any point in time. We see it with the bank. Even you think you free to your money in the bank, but if the bank shut down right now, the power go out, you out of luck right now. And now you are no longer financially free. That's a funny term because it's actually a term, but that yeah. So that's just a whole different thing. It's just okay, just be comfortable. just, just be comfortable. Stop you trying to be so free and you're still not free. It's just what they're allowing you to do.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of feeds into what I was saying. The freedoms are a bit of an illusion. Like you said, if they can just be taken away through martial law and things like that. Um and it's like do we find comfort in knowing that the government can drop martial law at any point in time, and they could say that it's for our betterment, for our safety. Oh, we have all of these internal threats, which which is such an interesting concept because they could easily say that because of how many illegal aliens are in the country and how many of them are being very violent, right? They could say, hey, we need to drop martial law because we have all of these foreign invaders, and then use that to roll out some other things to keep the rest of us under control. It's quite scary. I'm not gonna lie. These are the type of things that keep me up at night.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I did want to ask you this hypothetical, and y'all, if you're interested in having this conversation with us, I posted the link. It is listed up above. You can go ahead and click the link, and we'll bring your audio up, and we can have a conversation. And I would love to hear y'all's opinions on this as well. So I do have a hypothetical for you, Shannon, the OCPD coach. Um, I want you to imagine, it's a hypothetical. I want you to imagine the government rolled out a program where every American is guaranteed a comfortable house, free health care, steady monthly income. However, the catch is you'd have less personal freedoms, meaning you couldn't start a business, you couldn't travel freely without being approved, and you couldn't speak against the system without consequences. Um, what would you do under that? Would you accept a system like that, or would you reject a program such as that if they tried to roll that out for Americans?
So is it a program I'm forced to be on? Everybody is forced to be on it, or is it an opt-in type of situation?
So here's the thing: if you reject the program, right? If you reject the program, you'd have your full freedom to live, speak, and work as you please, but you'd have no guaranteed safety net. You'd have no guaranteed safety net. Um,
Yeah. That being said, I'm rejecting it. It's kind of, I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of people that's able to live off welfare right now. Who can work? They can actually go and work, but they choose. to stay on welfare, a lot of them, because for them it's more comfortable. They don't have it. They have the rate based everything based off of whatever the income is. So for me, I don't have enough confidence in the government to take. I don't have any confidence, actually, no confidence at all in the government to take care of me financially. I don't. As a matter of fact, I think we're gonna run out of Social Security before we even get to retirement age. I think before our parents even get to retirement age, right?
Yeah.
So that's out the window. Companies aren't doing pensions anymore, so you're not really getting that from your company. So this is actually great because this goes into something I always preach. I'm not a financial advisor, guys, but I always advise people to invest in the retirement early, even if it's just 40 bucks a week. Start investing in retirement, and you can do IRA, you can do Roth IRAs, you can do 401k if you have a company that you work for. Talk to them about matches because they actually will match up to a certain percentage, some companies, and you get free money. So look into that. That's something I did at 19. I started investing in my own retirement fund young, and now I just hit a big milestone a couple months ago that I never thought I would have, and it's just growing on its own. So for me, I've already opted out of anything they would try to do like that because I don't trust anything about finance with the government. Now, I've heard about something like this. It's like the universal, what is it? Universal
Universal
basic
basic
income.
income. Yes.
And is that the same? Is that the same thing you're painting here, where you wouldn't be able to talk bad about the government also?
Well, this will be a more extreme version of that, right? Because I think the UBI that a lot of people are fighting for doesn't have those stipulations, but we would be foolhardy to believe that that type of assistance from the government wouldn't come with some rules and things you can and cannot do. So, and even with that, if you have the wrong thought, like we have a lot of thought police in society. The UK is dealing with this right now, and they're trying to have that over here as well. If you think the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing online, then now your livelihood is tanked. We already have that with cancel culture here. You say something people disagree with, and they're contacting your job. Even Dean Withers, his psychotic little self, he's barely an adult. He has a big following of other crazy people, and he was having a debate with this man who said something that's factually true, right? It's factually true that parents have the power to make decisions over their child, right? So the framing of the question was, do you think you can consent for your child to be naked in front of an
I know what you're talking
adult?
about.
But it's just like, Dean, you're a child. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Whenever you have a child, you do end up consenting to that because guess what? They have doctors. Okay, every single time my child goes to the pediatrician is checking them to make sure that they're healthy. And so that in a sense, I'm consenting for this other adult to now look at my child to check for certain illnesses or things not growing in the way they should or different things like that. So and with that, um you
Hey,
have
man.
you hey.
Sorry, I had a buddy come over from the channel because I just remember to put it in
Oh,
my new Discord.
hey, that's what's
And
up.
yeah, welcome over, Megan. Apologies for that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And so you had people with that trying to call this man's job, trying to dox him where he lives, different things like that because he said something that was factually true. So we already have people that want to police our thoughts, police the things that we say. And it creates that like I said, that illusion of being free. And when it comes to the universal basic income, I don't think it's geared toward being that extreme, like what I said. But if we truly think that the government wants us to be more free, if we truly think that they're going to give a universal basic income to everybody and there wouldn't be checks and balances, things you can and cannot do now that you've subscribed to this system, that would be foolish of us to think. um I'm gonna do
Yeah,
the
I agree on
last
that.
call. We haven't had anybody jump into the jump into the call. So, I'm going to give it a little bit more time. And then if not, then we're going to go ahead and do our closing thoughts. But if you guys are interested in joining the conversation, I have the link posted. All you got to do is click the link and we'll bring your audio up so that you can share your thoughts. Because I do think this is a very important conversation, especially since I believe we're at the precipice of whether or not we're going to be able to keep our freedoms, the little freedoms that we do have, keep them versus just sacrificing them altogether in the name of, well, now I feel a little bit safer, right? Similar with right to, having your privacy, right? With the Patriot Act. Well, I feel a little bit safer knowing that they're screening everyone's calls and they can find the terrorists. That's what a lot of people were saying during that time, and I was confused by that. I don't know if I got your opinion on how you felt about that concept of
Uh, ooh, and this is called the Patriot Act.
yes, that's what it was called. It was called the Patriot Act. So essentially,
And
when
yeah,
when 9/11 happened, they passed the Patriot Act, and basically that allowed the government to basically screen everyone's information for looking for basically people planning terrorist attacks or things like that.
and when you say screen the information, what do you mean exactly?
Like you had analysts listening into conversations, you had
Hmm.
analysts looking through emails, things like that.
But if they get flagged, if something pops up, like a red flag, like something like you know how with Gmail, it's not a person sitting there. It's an automated system where if a word pops up or something suspicious, they'll let you know. Is it like that where it would just something would flag it? Because I'm just first of all, it didn't. I don't know anything about it. Obviously, I'm not really. I need to be more into the different laws and acts. First time I ever watched an executive signing was when the president signed like 90 of them in one night. That's the first. I was sitting here like, okay, what does this mean? So for me, I've been so out the loop because I'm just in my day to day. I tell my wife all the time. She always asks me about different things in law or the world. She's like, "Do you know?" And I'm like, honestly, there's nothing I can do in this situation that would change anything they just did. Really, in reality, but I can only deal with the way it impacts me. So it didn't impact me in a way that I'm aware of right now. I mean, I haven't had any. Well, don't go start looking through my phone calls now because I mean, I've had my phone for like 20 years. But I haven't said anything crazy. I just always wonder if you can do that much with technology in law, then I want to see you do more. And that's where I go. I go, why haven't you done more? If we can get to this point, then how far can you go? How far can you take these different technologies? So for instance, what is like the 911 calls and how
Um, with the Patriot
but
Act.
no, I'm just thinking like
Oh,
an
oh,
example of a
911
911
calls.
call.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
What
call
about them?
911 and they only have such limited information. But if we have these different systems that can screen and do all of this, why are we not making more advancements for the actual things that would help us in our day to day? That's just where my mind is. I don't care about. I mean, I know they spy on us all day. I know our phones, excuse me, are listening to us.
Yeah,
First of all, they have to be listening for us for them to hear "Hey Siri."
exactly.
It,
Yeah.
it has to be listening at all times, and it's just the same thing where it flags it if it hears that word. So it literally parses every single thing we say. Crazy thing about the phone is this is sending data to the ad distributors and these companies so that they can choose what they want to feed us. So
Yep.
I care less about the phone calls if I already know our phones do it and I chose them because of comfort. It's more comfortable to have the phone around me when I need it. It can do more functional things than the freedom it's restricting me of. So I would be a hypocrite to say I was really impacted or cared about that, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I said. They're gonna get us to agree with giving up those freedoms for comfort, because I don't think most people thought of it that way when we're thinking about, when smartphones first were introduced. I don't think we were thinking about this at that time. that, you know, people are going to be listening in on us at all times, that people are going to be watching us at all times, Big Brother, things like that. So that was you basically, you gave a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to
Yeah.
get us to agree to it, and
How
it's going to be a soft launch.
how many of us honestly read the user agreements when we every single user agreement when you get something? Uh, Many of us don't. I think we've signed a lot more freedoms than we are even aware of. And I'll tell you a prime example: Photoshop. When Photoshop decided to roll out the AI tool, and there were so many artists upset because they said my artwork was stolen and I didn't consent to this. And Photoshop said, "No, you did. It's right. It's right here." That's they make it big like that on purpose. So no problem, Megan. I honestly, I think it's so hypocritical to act like it's not something we're already doing. We purchase a home, comfort, right? If you're renting or owning a home, you still are not 100% free because the HOA, my HOA could get me evicted, which is the craziest thing. But my HOA, if I violate the HOA, if I don't pay the HOA, they can actually get my home foreclosed on. The mortgage company can get my home foreclosed on. Any of these circumstances that I would consider myself to be free, is like, oh, I own a home, I own land, I don't pay my taxes, they come get it. So we've already traded our freedoms for comfort because we say we'll give you the money, continue giving you the money, staying here knowing we'll never own it, instead of saying, okay, how about we just take our car that we know is paid off, 100% paid off, so nobody can come take a paid off car unless you're in debt. Why don't we just
Yeah.
go sleep in that? Why don't you? Why don't you? That's my question. Why don't we? Because it's not comfortable. We would much
Yeah.
rather have a home. So I honestly, we do it every single day, and that's why when I asked, and if I go on a monologue, just stop me.
No, you're good.
But that's why I asked early on. I got my notes here. I said, "What freedoms are we giving away that are new?" Because honestly, I think most of my freedoms are gone. The only freedom I know I really have, and even this is under threat, is the right to bear arms. We're supposed to have what, a right to what was it, a fair trial? Is that one of them? I need to go back and freshen up on them.
Yeah.
They had the right to peacefully protest. We have all of these different freedoms, and honestly, we always just say, okay, we want to be more comfortable. We don't want to do that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you know, and I think you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct in your analysis. You know, we do tend to go for what's comfortable, and like you said, we're willing to tolerate more and more and more for that comfort. And like I said, it's all been a soft launch. Okay, it's been a soft launch all the way up until now. Because I don't. What were you gonna say?
I have a question for you. This is a crazy question, but I need to ask you this. It's
Okay.
one thing that I've said because I believe in the Bible and the stuff that it says about marking the mark of the beast and all that stuff. And honestly, they're going to do microchips. I see it coming. Like they're already started testing this and implementing it. A microchip, is that something that you would allow anybody, not even just the government? Let's say it's Tesla, to put a microchip inside of you, and they say you access all your money from here, you access all your contacts, you never need a phone. They can help you if you get sick. So if you get a cancer in your body, it'll heal your body. How far? Now that's the question for me that I would have loved. How far do we go? What is the limit for comfort? The trade-off.
I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry. I hope I'm dead and gone before, you know, hopefully that's happening like thousands of years from now, even though I know that's happening in a few years. Let's be
Yeah,
so for
it's
real
happening
here.
right now.
That
It's happening right now.
that is too close to home. That is way too close to home when you have something inserted into your body where they could like how do you know they're not installing a deletion chip or they've been working on MK Ultra, become a mindless zombie, or when they want to have chaos and destruction in order to roll out something else, because there needs to be some kind of event to roll out more removal of freedoms and autonomy. How do you know they're not programming you to do something that you in your right mind would not do? You know, and a lot of people think that's tin hat. I don't think so.
But
I
now
don't think
look,
so.
but that's why I brought this up, because now you bring up the actual dilemma that exposes what freedom really is. Because now they say if you don't get this chip, you can't do any trading of money. Currency is
Exactly.
dead to you. If you don't use this chip, forget driving, forget owning a home, forget having health insurance, forget being able to send your kid to school if you were sending them to school. Everything that you've known that you thought you were free to do, now they have the right to take it from you. And I bring this up because this is a warning for me. This is a warning message, because we have to really know what that line is. Sandra brought up so many good points on what could actually happen if a chip is put in you. You don't know. You don't know. But you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm willing to really go homeless, or you can't even leave the earth. I can't even say leave the country, because they might be doing it somewhere everywhere. You might have to become Amish. If they're even allowed to, because they are, honestly, I've considered it so many times. I don't even know if I'm eligible to become Amish. But I told my wife, I said I would drop the phone, I would drop the internet, I would drop it all if it means the peace that they seem to live. I would love it. So just something to
Hey,
keep in mind. It's coming, y'all. It's definitely coming. They're gonna pitch it as this is the most helpful thing. It's the most convenient. You never have to worry about getting a phone upgrade. We just, when you sleeping, we upgrade you. we upgrade the chip that's inside of you. It's coming.
that's
Watch Bill
insane.
Gates.
You know, I might have to look into that too.
Hey, here's your
I'm
reminder.
gonna have to look into the
Please
Amish, see if they accept black people. I will churn some butter, okay? I will churn the butter, okay? I will feed the cows. I will teach the school children how to count from 1 to 10. I will do all those things.
Yeah, it's
give
getting
me a
crazy out
real
here.
bonnet, you know, the little bonnet that they actually wear in Amish culture. I will wear that mug. I don't care,
Yeah,
because let's be so for real here. You know, it's I just, man, that, you
that's
know,
crazy, right?
that Neuralink type of, like, the level of trust you would have, and I think most people would go for it. Most
Oh,
people go for it. Just
absolutely.
like with the vaccine, they were trying to have it where if you didn't have the vaccine, you couldn't go certain places. Or even with small children, you
Yeah,
know, me and Justin, we had to switch our daughter from a different pediatrician because we didn't want to get
they're
certain
trying.
vaccines. And so there's always going to be coercion, right? There's always, that's the part. It's not really being free because you're being coerced into doing it.
Yes.
So it's like,
Yep.
you know, that's the part. And it's like, I don't have an issue if you choose to do it. It's the fact that you're coercing me to do it.
Uh,
You know, it's the
exactly. Yes.
coercion. And that's the part that I don't like, because I should still be able to access basic necessities, if I don't want to go along with this agenda, go along with this next level of tyranny. I should be allowed to still access my basic things. All that extra stuff should just be that extra. If you want that
Yeah,
extra convenience, by all means, you should be able to do that for yourself. I'm not going to tell you you can't get the Neuralink. But if I want to pay for my groceries with cash money, I should be allowed to do so.
I agree. And there's certain places that don't even take cash anymore.
Yep.
That
Yep.
that alone should show you how realistic that reality could be, where people are saying, "No, I don't even want the physical thing, only electronically. That's the only way we can do business electronic." Matter of fact, I don't know the last time I touched cash from somebody giving me cash, or even me just exchanging cash in a business setting or a work setting. I've been working from home for the past 6 years. Every check has been direct deposit. Every payment is auto pay through a credit card. You have phones nowadays where you can just put your phone up. So people have become that comfort. That comfort, I'm telling you, that's when you're gonna really see. That's when people will come back to this conversation. It's gonna be a low view video, and they'll be like, "Wait, what were they talking about 2 years ago?" And then everybody's gonna see
Yep.
that it was a grand plan the whole time.
Yep. That's why I said everything is a soft launch. Okay, everything is a soft launch because they know if they try to force you, before you're ready, then that's when revolution happens. That's when the people say absolutely not. That's when the people rebel. But if I can get you to want it, if I can get
Right.
you to agree to it, then you're not going to fight it because, like I said, I gave you the illusion of choice. Um, and everybody wants to exercise their control over the masses, and you'll probably be able to speak on this a little bit more than I would because you are a game developer when it comes to everything with Steam and how these
Mhm.
credit card companies are positioning themselves to decide what games we get to play based on whether or not they're going to process the payment. So, that's another
Yeah.
area where we're losing freedom. People are using their leverage to limit what we're able to do. So it's a slippery slope, and some people think, well, it's just games, but you think that's where it's going to end?
No,
You think
absolutely
that's where
not.
it's going to end? You're selling a product that they don't agree with. Like, let's take it a step further. Okay, we're having a conversation. Let's take it a step further. What happens when they say, oh, eating meat is now banned, and now you have to eat the lab grown meat that we create because it's more humane, it doesn't harm the animals. So now you have to eat the meat that's been printed out with a 3D printer. And if your company is, or your grocery store is still choosing to sell real meat, then guess what, we're not processing your payments anymore. Now what?
So yeah, is that question to me, or was that rhetorical? I think it was rhetorical. I'm just making sure.
It could be both. It could be whatever you want it to be.
This is the thing about that, because the way you pitched it, it would definitely be a thing where they say it's better that and all of that good stuff. Um, I think people go for it. I do. We eat so much crap already. Like most of the stuff that we eat is artificial. So honestly, they wouldn't even have to make certain. This is the tricky thing about freedom and ignorance. We honestly don't know most of the stuff we eat unless you are always doing organic and all that stuff. We most of the time we don't know what's that. We don't even know what's in our water. In our water that actually comes out of our sink, that's contaminated a lot of times. So I say that to say a government wouldn't even have to say that. They just stopped selling meat and just sell you. And they did it. I'll show you a great example of how they did it without even asking for my permission. Look at these chips. This is a bag of these are Detroit based chips, y'all. If y'all never had Better Made, go get them. These are some of the best chips I ever had. Actually, the best. But look how small. I only took one chip out of this bag. You see this? This is how little is in this bag right now. They didn't ask my permission when they decided to take the freedom of me having a full bag of chips was stripped from me without my permission. They just did it, and that's what's
Manipulation.
going to happen. If it's the meat, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to take it away, and you'll deal with it. And then what they'll do is they'll say, okay, cool. Now, based off the crap we sold you, and you dealing with these side effects, now we're going to make you take your freedom away because of the side effects. So now, because of all the stuff we gave you, if you're sick and you got this sickness or this illness from it, and you qualify, like what they do, they did it with polio. Like they isolate you based off your sickness. But they're the ones making you. But that's when they say now, because this is the consequence, now we can take your freedom away. That's the scary thing to me. It's always the side effects, y'all. Always the side effects.
Yeah, and it's even deeper than that. I'll take it a step further. When it
Oh,
comes to language, what they'll do is they'll start changing the definitions of things. So now once this 3D printed meat is now considered meat, then they won't even have to tell you that it's not real because they will have changed the definition of what it
for
is.
real.
And so
Oh,
you're looking at the label thinking you're doing your due diligence, and these companies don't have to tell you, hey, this is lab grown meat. They'll just say it's meat because it's the same. It's meat. Why do you think? Why do I need to say it's lab grown meat? I could just say it's meat. And next thing you know, you eating some. You think you eating chicken? You're eating
Yeah.
an unknown substance. You have no idea.
They took
Just
the
like
fruit. They
we
took the seeds out our fruit.
they did, and that's insane to me.
It's really hard to find. I'll try to go to Publix and find a watermelon with fruit in it. I don't care. Um, and
Watermelon's
when I
delicious. Give it
now
to
I know
you.
it's just it's like I fit that one stereotype of the fruit that black people love being
Everybody
watermelon.
loves watermelon. I was over
I
there in
hope so.
China. They loved watermelon. Everybody loves some damn watermelon.
Okay, that needs to be on the shirt. Watermelon, though, I couldn't find any out here with seeds in it. So even that, like you go and watermelon, it doesn't have a big thing that's just like, hey, we don't have seed. It's not, it's just watermelon. That's why I said. So I started getting the fruit and I would cut. I'm like, look at the texture. This is not watermelon. They're already doing it. You ever see the movie Interstellar?
Of I
If
think
not,
just
watch
not
that.
watched that. What who's in it? Who's in it and what's the premise? Because I
Matthew
think I've watched
McConaughey. Is that his name? Matthew McConaughey?
Interstellar. Let me look that up because I
I'm
feel
not
like
gonna
I've
tell y'all.
seen it.
Y'all should watch it. If y'all haven't watched it, y'all should watch it together. That's one of the most beautiful movies. But it's talking about basically the future state of Earth and why it's so important to.
We did watch that movie. That movie was good. That movie was
Yeah,
so it was good, but it was yes, where
crazy.
he was looking for a new planet for people to inhabit. And then
Yeah.
yeah, that movie was good. Christopher
Now
Nolan is
you
a gem.
you remember the issue with the whole thing that happened was that the crops had all died out. Even and they were down to the last crop, which was corn, right? I think
Yep,
corn was the last crop, and they had so much dust that they didn't have enough for the next generation.
yep.
I honestly think that's the situation we are probably very close to, and they not telling us. That's my conspiracy theory. I just the fact that it's so much artificial is like you're trying to stretch it. It's like you ever been a kid when you were a child and you have body wash and it's running down. Then your parents say, just pour some water in it, fill it back. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
We running out of the good stuff, and now they're like, all right, just fill it up with all the artificial. And that's something I don't know. That movie is yeah.
Yeah, that movie is but with what you're saying, the I can see that being a big problem because they genetically modified these seeds not to reproduce. And whenever you mess with nature, you're gearing yourself up for some bullshit, for some tomfoolery. Like there is, I forget where this is, but there is a bank that has pretty much all the different seeds for like the fruits and vegetables that we eat. And it's to the point where when you buy seeds, most of the time the seeds that you buy, and this is why farmers get affected so badly with this, the seeds that they're buying are already genetically modified not to reproduce. So whereas you could buy a pack of seeds and for like tomatoes, let's say tomatoes, and then from that you could continue to grow tomatoes every single year. You wouldn't have to buy seeds again unless you had an issue where everything died and things like that. Then you would have to buy some more seeds. But you would be able to continue that process of because plants are just like any other living organism. They're geared for reproduction. Okay, reproduction is the whole kit and caboodle of
Yeah.
existing
Cycle.
is to reproduce. And the fact that we've genetically modified the seeds not to reproduce, what kind of impact is that having on it brings so many questions to my mind. What impact is that having on the soil? What impact is that having on the environment just in a general sense? Just like what you said about our health, how is eating these artificial, because it's like we try to play God, right? This is literally playing God when you remove a plant's ability to reproduce. What what changes, you change that one thing and you don't realize the other changes that are happening and the
Right.
problems that can arise from that. So we have these artificial fruits and vegetables that we've been consuming for a good probably 15, 20 years, probably even before then. If you talk to the older generation, they'll tell you that certain things tasted way better back in the day because it was real. Um,
Man,
oh my
this is a
God.
crazy thought. Now you okay? I'm about one more thing, because we talk about all this food, we talking about freedom, we talk about comfort. We didn't talk about greed and the greed culture, especially in America. Obesity is a word. It's a scientific, terminology. Um, if it was a food shortage, if we're going towards a food shortage, do you think that the government should impose a food limit on how much each person can consume? I want to hear
Goes
Justin's
back to that
opinion on this too.
freedom.
If he in the background, because I know he probably is opinionated on something like that. But if it's a food shortage, are you comfortable with them forcing a ration where you can only purchase X amount of grocery, like daily groceries? You can only purchase daily groceries, and it's a certain amount that you can have for your home.
See, that involves way too much trust because what I feel like would happen is we'll end up getting less than what we need. We'll end up getting less than what we need. And the people that like for instance, I'll give you an instance. Like, I'm breastfeeding, right? I just had a son back in January, and I'm planning on breastfeeding him for a year. I have to eat a certain amount of food to make sure that not only I'm sustained, but also that I'm able to produce enough milk. Because if you lower your calories a little too low, then my body will stop producing the milk for my son, at least not as much milk, and then he'll be hungry. So I don't trust that the amount of rations would even be enough for sustaining a healthy lifestyle, and that certain factors would not be taken into play. And it's just,
The alternative is Earth runs out of food in 3 years, though.
and
So if they
see,
don't do it based off the track record, Earth runs out of food in 3 years. I'm asking because these are the types of thoughts where it makes you question how you would really handle a situation like that. And you say, if this means that we are guaranteed to extend the life of Earth for another 30 years, which means my children can actually grow up and even if they have to be rationed for a little bit, I knew Judge Justice say, hell no. That's interesting because now it puts you in a different situation. You the issue.
yeah,
Fall into the
Homo, you
uh,
said you forget that if you fall into the wrong think or simply unlikable category, you will suffer. And see, that's another, thank you for bringing that up, because that's another thing that they want to roll out, that social credit, your social credit score. And
yeah, what is
while and they have that over in China, right? They have that already there. If you have a low social credit score, then you're not allowed to do certain things, right? I don't think they have that for foreigners because I was never impacted by that when I lived in China. At least I don't think I was. But um, yes, if you have a situation where you fall into the wrong group think, if someone thinks that, oh my god.
I'm reading
So
this.
there are um there are social things that we all can kind of look at and be like, okay, that's rude, right? Like, I'll think of one for individuals that don't put their cart away, their buggy. When they finish with their grocery, they just leave it in the middle of the parking lot. They don't put it up. That type of stuff, it gets on my nerves. And, what they want to do is they want to start rolling out social credit scores so you can downvote somebody. You see them leave a cart in the parking lot, you can downvote somebody. But then again, once you start rolling out stuff like that, things that aren't rude, okay, inherently rude, like I said earlier about you have a conversation you've consented to with somebody else, and y'all are on the same page, but somebody overhears it, they don't like what you're saying, and then they start downvoting you. Even when you see on YouTube, you have, or other streaming platforms, you say something that some content creator doesn't like, and then they send their little minions over there to report your video. and there's no
Mhm.
recourse. There's no way for you to hold them accountable for flagging your shit for no reason and unjustly. So it's just like this
I
rabbit hole goes so deep, you guys. So
and it's
deep.
funny because as somebody with OCPD, I actually love this. I love it because it holds people accountable. I dislike it because it's subjective, and
Yes.
that is the issue that I would have is based to anybody's opinion. I think they can make the system better if they rolled it out here, and I don't know how it exists, or it might already exist like this. But if everything was compartmentalized, so it wasn't just a single credit score, it was you had different criteria that you had a rating in. So maybe in my actual credit block, if you call it a credit block, they might say that as far as timeliness, I might be 97%. But as far as if somebody is coming behind me and holding the door open for them, maybe I'm at a 30%. I'm not like that, by the way, y'all. I actually hold the door open for people. But I'm saying if it was more compartmentalized like that, it actually could be useful for people to know who they're dealing with. Because a lot of times we deal with strangers and we know nothing about them. That's actually a man. I love the concept of something like that, but it has to be run by non-corrupt people.
I wouldn't
And
even
most of
trust people at all. I wouldn't trust people at all. Like, it's one of those things. Like, okay, so what if AI was running it? What if AI that's been trained by multiple types of people, so that the certain biases are ruled out or negated? Will we then be okay with it having AI do it? I know Justin and I've had conversations um about traffic laws, and having AI do it instead of police officers, because a lot of times
mm,
they could pull you over and you're not even doing you're not even doing over the limit. And we've experienced this before, where you're actually driving the speed limit and a sheriff pulls you over saying you're doing 80 in a 70, and you weren't doing 80 in a 70, but it's your word against the police officers if you don't have a dash cam. There are literally conversations online about people that have gotten pulled over by the police, and because they had a dash cam, the police was like, you know what, never mind, I'm not going to write you the ticket, because they know that the dash cam is able to capture your speed, all these other things, so they're not able to use to do that racket against you, to tell you did over 80 when you were doing 70.
I
So
like that.
it's just it's so tricky, because it's like, and Pomo, I agree, I wouldn't like any of this. And the thing is, they'll appeal to the things you do like, right? So, like, for instance, with the shopping cart, because that gets on my last damn nerves. I hate when mofos leave a damn shopping cart. Just it takes 2 seconds to put it into the little compartment for the
Mhm.
shopping carts. So if somebody had a low credit score for putting their shopping cart, they wouldn't be allowed to access shopping carts. You gotta hold everything. You gotta hold it and carry it to your car, make several
I
trips.
like that.
You lose your right to use the shopping cart. So, like,
Yeah.
stuff like that would appeal to me. But then, like I said, what door are we opening?
Yeah.
What door are we opening? Because as much as that would make me so satisfied to see them bastards carrying all they shit to their car because they refuse to do the common courtesy of putting their dang plastic carts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
That's
just it's
yeah.
what doors are we opening?
I'm kind of mad that this is not something that could be dope. Wait, is Justin there? Am I hearing
That's
something?
Justin.
Justin, it says 4 people in the chat too.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
uh, can y'all hear him in the chat? And not in the chat.
Oh,
Can y'all hear him? Just I want to make
Well,
sure y'all
yeah,
hear
you
him.
should be able to hear me. You should be able to hear me in the chat because I was able to hear Shannon.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So, what are your thoughts, Justin?
well, so where were y'all at? Because I didn't hear the last few minutes. I was getting set up.
Yeah, we're talking about the social credit score, and whether or not we will be okay with a system like that, where certain freedoms are restricted based on your credit score.
Mm. Uh, and I heard you talk about the ticket too. But
Yeah.
you kind of pretty much already have a system like that in place, right? Where you got
So
like you talking about traffic stuff or traffic citations. You can get a traffic citation and you're not doing anything, you can't fight it. It doesn't matter if you weren't speeding or if you were, regardless of that fact, you cannot fight that. And courts around, courts, lawyers, everybody knows that you can't fight it. So what you have to do is you either have to work out a deal with the prosecutors, or you have to just basically you pay your way out of it. You pay your way out of bigger trouble for something that you didn't do. Because like we were coming back from Hilton Head, and I'm doing the speed limit, and I'm riding behind a big ass semi truck. Cop comes from the median, pulls me over, and he said, "I got you doing 88 and a 70." I said, "88 and a 70." I'm looking at the speedometer and the truck in front of me, and like literally in front of me, and people around me, and we all going the same speed. So I'm like, how am I doing 88 when nobody else is doing 88? And I look at the speedometer, and it's showing me, it was showing me 70. So I'm like, okay, that's crazy. And then I talked to a lawyer. The lawyer said you can't fight that. Like there's no way you can fight it. Like it doesn't matter if you were going to speed limit or not, you can't fight it. You just got to pay the court fees, you got to pay me, etc. And then if because so here in Georgia, if you get an 88, that's what they consider that a super speeder, and that goes on your insurance. So
wow.
what they want you to do is work out a deal to where you can um work out a deal with the court. You pay the courts and all different stuff, and then they'll knock it down below the super speeder mark and then it's not reportable on your insurance. So I'm like, that sounds like a scam to me. But at the same time, it's like because you can't fight it, especially by yourself, they know they can get away with that. So now you have a lot of people, all these local governments, they make a lot of money off of that, and it's a whole racket. And then they see how compliant people are, and they say, well, you know what? We can keep getting away with this for as long as we want because people are compliant with it. So when it comes to the idea of social credit score, I mean, pretty much people are already complicit in that. You know what I mean? Because as soon as you roll out a system that says, well, someone accused you of doing this and that, and you say, well, no, I didn't. Well, you can't fight it. You just got to work on getting your score up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
the same thing. So it's like um I'm trying to think of. I had a good example of when I came out here. I had a good example, but I forgot. I forgot it. I'll probably think of it in a little minute. But people just when it comes to this whole comfort versus freedom thing, most people have already chosen comfort, and they chose it because they think because like even when you talk about if you go on a smaller scale and you look at people in the UK and you had all these people going because I remember back when Texas first instituted the law to restrict prawn, there was a
Ah,
bunch of people saying hooray, 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 yes, we should restrict it, yes, it should be banned and all the different stuff. I'm like, do y'all not understand the precedents that that's setting? And they were like, well, it's protecting the kids. But now these same individuals are saying, no, we don't like this because we see now that it's a problem. But it's like, it's too late. You already supported it. You already gave up your freedom at that point. You already set the precedent that it was okay for a state to tell you what you can and cannot look at online, or to tell you that you have to put your ID in if you want to go on certain websites. You already gave them that power. So
I got a
people
question
will
real quick.
absolutely, huh?
I got a question real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Did we ever really have the freedom to watch what we wanted though? Because if you watch child porn and it's found out that is a crime. So that was never really a freedom.
Right.
That door was always
So
open.
So that's when you get into the whole the nuances of exceptions to the rule, right? Where it's like there's one thing that we can say, okay, you know what? In this aspect, we should all agree that this should be illegal, right? Or this shouldn't be allowed. If we catch you doing this, then we're going to make sure that you are held accountable. And so I wouldn't make that comparison because um it's not the same as saying, well, I'm an adult and I want to watch other consenting adults, or I want to play games with other with consent, with depictions of consenting adults. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing. So it's two completely separate issues, and I wouldn't merge them because one, the other one, like with Texas, they saying, well, we want to make sure that no kids can get on these websites. But then again, it's like, well, how are you going to do that? Um, well, we're gonna write some laws to tell people that they have to put IDs on websites. But the thing about that is, the parents should be the ones who control their kids enough to be like, don't go on the website, or they should be able to use the parental controls that already exist to block those websites, which is very easy to do, especially on a home network. But if you start saying, well, now we can tell you, okay, this is dangerous or harmful to kids, and you have to provide your ID for this and that. Well, now you're setting a precedent where if you provide your ID to look at something, something that they deem harmful for kids, like a discussion like this could be harmful for the minds of kids. Who's the decider of what's harmful for kids? You know what I mean? And so I'm saying people are already complicit in this whole idea. But it's like, well, as long as we're protecting this and that, then I'm fine with this existing. But it's like that's not how that really works, though. All you're really doing is saying, well, we need to pass the responsibility of parenting onto the government, and then when the government start acting like everybody's parent, regardless of how old you are, now it's too late. You know what I mean? So if you wanted to, like UK, they saw this too. They was like, well, I can't view content about what was it, about Israel and the conflict over there they have in the Middle East. I can't view content about that unless I provide my ID. Well, guess what? You provide your ID, they know you're looking at that. So you get in some type of trouble, or I would say thought policing trouble. Then now you go back to the you can't fight it. You can't fight it. You've been found guilty by the court of thought police.
Yeah.
So everything you view online is now tied to your identity, which is a huge problem. That's a privacy risk, and that was the thing that I was upset with conservatives for supporting. I'm like, y'all really let the oldest trick in the book get you, which is we got to protect the kids. When has that ever worked? That has never worked in the history of any government official saying let's protect the damn kids. It's never worked.
It's never about the kids.
It
It's a
never
bait and
is.
switch. It's a bait and switch. And see what you brought up there is so true. Because once they start keeping a catalog of every single conversation that you're having, let's say we did need to have some type of revolution, right? And we did need to rise up and all this other stuff. Guess what? They know exactly who to round up because you provided your
Mm-hmm.
ID to every conversation you've been a part of. If they wanted to put forth, like for instance, with COVID, they wanted everyone. That's why they started talking about misinformation and disinformation because people were coming out and saying that the sky is not red. Stop telling me the sky is red. And people that were telling you what the color of the sky actually was were being silenced. They were being censored. So when we agree to giving ID for every single thing that we do, then that's going to make that ability to control the conversation, control the narrative that much easier because it's like, oh well, this conversation is spreading this type of misinformation. And this isn't a party thing. Both parties can both parties can participate in, having their idea of what's real and then telling the rest of us to get on board with it. This isn't a thing where it's like, well, the Democrats are wanting to do this and no, they're both wanting to do this. They're both wanting to be able
Right.
to tell you what's real and what's not. And it's like, because we're so tribal, we're willing to ride hard for the one side stripping away that freedom, because we're riding hard for the left, or we're riding hard for the right, not realizing that that's just going to send you down the rabbit hole of it almost reminds me of that poster that they always have up in the classroom, the social justice classroom or whatever, where they're talking about, first they came for such and such and you did nothing. Then they came for this and you did nothing. Now they're coming for you and there's nobody to help you do anything. It's exactly that. So, we're saying, oh, we're trying to do this for the kids. We're doing this for the kids, but really, like we've been talking about this whole stream, it's opening the door for everybody to get screwed. It's opening the door for us, one political party puts it in place and then the other political party utilizes it. That's essentially what we have. The two parties work together to screw us. So, and then they give us controlled opposition. This might be too deep for y'all. I don't know how far deep in the well, I know Justin's deep in the rabbit hole with me, but and I think Shannon, you there with me too. But we quite literally, and I believe this, we have a system where the left and the right work hand in hand to take away our freedoms, but they give us this controlled opposition so that we have something to fight for, we have a side to believe in. But really what happens is, let's say the left puts out legislation, gets it passed, then the next term the right utilizes that legislation, and vice versa, just to lead us down the same path of losing our autonomy and our choice.
Right. And that's what's happening with that, with all that stuff when they saying, well, we got to have IDs for this and have IDs for that. I'm like, well, y'all don't realize that as soon as them people that you say wanted to restrict you get back in power, they gonna tell you what you need an ID for, and then they gonna do the same thing they was doing before, like with all the social media stuff when everybody was getting put off the platform. Because I remember I got a post blocked because I've reacted to a video of this dude. He saw a spider, grabbed something to get it. He turned around, the spider was gone, and I said, at that point, just burn the whole house down. That was my comment.
So they got you for that.
Facebook got me for that. I'm like, bro, what? Oh, that's ridiculous. So you know, I forget where I'm going with this.
And that was an automated system.
Yep.
No, because I disputed it, and a real person reviewed it, and they kept it up. I was like, what? I can't even say burn the house. Like, I'm assuming they were thinking it was political because it was like, well, are you talking about burn the House of Representatives down, or what are you talking? Like, no, ain't nothing political. It's a skit. I'm just like, bro,
but see,
some
just
crazy
that kind of
stuff.
goes with an issue that we've been having with certain people of not having social skills. So let's say you put
Yeah,
people in those positions and they don't know how to read the room. They don't know how to distinguish when a joke is being made. They don't understand idioms. They don't understand hyperbole. They don't understand, any of these things. And so they're in these positions making these decisions, and it's completely off of their warped reality because they don't they don't have social skills.
yeah. No, I agree with that. I know exactly what you're talking about too.
Yeah. Can you imagine somebody like that being in control? And of course,
You
they
don't have to imagine
gravitate
it.
towards those type of jobs because it feeds their ego and it makes them feel like they're making the world a better place. So those type of people, they gravitate towards jobs like that. And then we wonder why a post saying burn the house down because it's got a spider in it and we lost track of the spider and it's obviously a joke. You wouldn't burn your house down over a goddamn spider. But Justin, this is why these problems are happening. The type of person that we're talking about, and I'm not gonna say any names, but those are the type of people that go for positions like this, and they can't read the room, and so they're sitting here deciding what's appropriate and what's not when they have no grounding in reality or basic communication skills.
Right.
It's it's,
Man.
it's crazy though. I had to say something because when you said, of course, nobody would actually burn the house down. I thought about do y'all remember that case where there's a lady who had bed bugs and she accidentally set the whole apartment complex on fire, and she said, I was tired of the bed bugs. They've been biting me all night. This is a real case. She actually, I'm not saying that that's what they think you were doing, but it's actually people out here who actually accidentally started fires over bugs.
Anyway, that's a
Bed
rare
bugs are a
case.
whole nother thing. If you've
I
ever
know
had to
that's what
deal
I'm
with
saying.
bed bugs, that I might have to burn the house down over some bed bugs.
Brought a
Them
lot of
things
memories.
live under crazy conditions. Like, and a lot of people, they think like, oh, bed bugs means you're dirty. That's not true. You could be clean, and you could just go into an environment where somebody, like, you go to the grocery store and you walk past, you accidentally brushed up against somebody and they've been living with bed bugs, and now it's on your clothes, and then you go back home, and if it was a woman and it was pregnant, now you got bed bugs, and you could be
Yes,
somebody that's clean. So, not to
yes,
make you
yeah.
itch, like,
I
it's
just
just
saw a video of somebody. They went to Great Wolf Lodge and lifted up the bed. It was just bed bugs all over the place. Yeah, I saw that last week, ironically.
goodness
So I got
gracious.
my fill on bed bugs.
Goodness gracious, and trying to get rid of them is hell. It's literally hell. Like, trying to get rid of bed bugs is literally hell. Oh my god. But y'all, let me see. I don't see anybody else coming up, so I guess we'll go ahead and do final thoughts, because we've been talking for over 2 hours now, and it's easy
Yes,
to keep talking about it because this is such a deep conversation. And honestly, I would love for us to continue to revisit this conversation as time goes on, because more and more things will roll out. But I do want to get final thoughts since we didn't have anybody else call in. So we'll start with Justin. So, Justin, what are your final thoughts on, do Americans want freedom or do we want comfort?
I think most people just want comfort. The reason why I say that is because most people have that mentality that, you know, I need to be able to just go to work, come home, watch my little TV, and not be bothered with anything else. So they be willing to give up everything in their life just for that little bit of, well, I can do the bare minimum of, like I said, getting up, going to work, coming back, watching a little TV, going to sleep, and then going out to eat occasionally. Because most people can't even afford to do that a lot. But yeah, I think most people want comfort. Me personally, freedom, because freedom is real comfort. Is when you know that if something go down, you can do what you have to do to make sure that you're protected and make sure that you and yours are protected. And that's why I say, well, you know what? I'll change it. They want the illusion of comfort. There we go. They don't want real comfort. They want the illusion of comfort. That's my closing. Can y'all still hear me?
yeah, we hear
We
you.
can hear you. You was going in,
No.
and and I'm sorry, but as you were speaking, something came into mind. And y'all are game developers, so maybe you guys can. I don't want to keep, because I know we all got stuff to do. But is it possible that with the advancement of video games, the advancement of simulations, is it possible that they're leading us towards a reality where in your real life, your freedoms are so restricted, but then we're able to live out our freedom virtually?
That's GTA. I mean, that's literally GTA. You can literally go on GTA. That's why they were in such an uproar when it came out. You go on GTA and do
Well, yeah.
anything, die, and come right back alive. So you don't have any consequences. That's the biggest issue with our freedom is the consequences of it. So with GTA, that killed everything. It's probably get other games, but that is the biggest. Why do you think it's so many? It's such a big community for the RP role playing, where people can just go and they literally play the game and act like it's their real life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Am I
but
lying?
see, no, you're not. No, but so when it comes to like the whole simulation thing, I agree with that because people are already complicit enough to behave like that Black Mirror episode when he was on a bike.
Mm.
Do y'all remember that one?
Yes.
When
You
he
feel
was,
like
I think all them people were making electricity. They were earning money. They just went to work, went to sleep, and it was it was basically just, life was just was on that damn bike, was on the exercise bike, and then they would get enough credits and hope that they can turn their life around, which is pretty much how life is now. But they were locked in a box and they couldn't escape the box without having the funds to do it. So if you ran out of money, then you couldn't or credits, then you couldn't block certain things from your cell. I'm just calling it a cell. Um,
Middle of the
and
night, you're getting
so
ads.
yeah, exactly. So they already got people prepared just like that because I mean you pretty much you pretty much have that now. With the whole simulation thing, you have that because people, well, they have video games as an escape one, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that you know people are a lot more complicit with the whole idea. Well, one day I can do this if I just get enough of this money or something like that. So yeah, I think they did prepare people for that, but I think people. I don't think it's being prepped. I think it was already prepped, and it's now coming into play where people are gonna start having that go to work, go home lifestyle, and there's gonna be nothing else to it, and they're not gonna complain, not gonna own anything, and you're still not gonna complain. You know what I mean? They've already instituted that. I believe.
I had my first car. No, I had a car in GTA 5 before I owned my first car. And it felt like I had a car in real life. I was driving that car, avoiding walls. I paid extra to get it souped up with the chrome. I had mute, and it felt like I had a real car. And that's even just that small amount of freedom where I had the freedom to drive a car that I wanted to in the game made it where I wanted to spend more time in that game than in real life time because I didn't have a car. It's crazy, but it doesn't take much for us to. It doesn't take much freedom for us to feel comfortable. Oh, there it is. That's what I was trying to say. It doesn't take much freedom for us to feel comfortable. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I think
Right.
I answered the
Right.
question too that you asked, Justin. I think that's my answer.
Yeah. Did you
I
have
think
any
I,
final thoughts on it, on the topic as a whole, or was that
did you ask me or did you ask Justin? I couldn't hear
no? Justin gave his final piece.
it. Okay. Okay. So I would say this. I always like to get some gems, right? So we talk about freedom and comfort. I want to remind you guys, first of all, that we are not really, really, really free, right? So you are free in a sense of you can go and do certain things, but you are not free from consequences. So please be cautious of the actions that you take. Don't go out here ruining your entire life, your entire credit, thinking everything is a game, wasting your time. Because a lot of the more assets you can get, the more money you can get, the more network you can get, the stronger your illusion of freedom becomes. And it goes back to something Justin said with the ticket. Had Justin not had the ability to first of all talk to a lawyer, but second off pay that bill and been in a worse situation because of that, it's no telling how that would have impacted his life. I mean, we're talking about potential suspended license, maybe jail time. I don't know how bad it can get, but because he had certain things in place, he was able to use that to leverage his freedom. So that's what I say. And no, I think it was a great conversation. Definitely went on longer. I thought I was hopping off at like 8:15 to start streaming at 8:30, and I had to just bump it to tomorrow. So we're gonna just do a check in tomorrow to do a weekly, see how everything going throughout the week on the OCPD Coach channel.
I'm so sorry. I
Are you
didn't mean
good?
to stretch the conversation so long, but this conversation, it's so deep and there's so many things to consider, and I don't even think we've scratched the surface with
No, I
everything that
agree.
we've talked about here. I don't even think we've scratched the surface, but like I said, I want us to revisit this conversation down the line and see if any of our predictions have come to fruition. See if different things are put down the pipeline, and how people are going to respond to it. But y'all, thank y'all so much. We do have our channels linked down below. The OCPD Coach and then Sandra Faye. Go ahead and check out our channels. We will be back next Thursday with some more heat, okay? With some more heat, more conversations. If you guys are interested in more call-in shows like this, let us know. Okay, we didn't get too many call-ins today. So if it's not something y'all are interested in, then we'll kind of put that off to the side. But if call-in shows are something that you're interested in, let us know. Okay. And yeah, do y'all have anything you want to plug before we go on ahead and get up out of here?
All right, I guess. All right, look, we got video games. So I'm working on a video game right now called Retro Game Store Simulator. It's on Steam. Y'all will hear more about it real soon, and I might even make it where if you guys sell some copies, you can make some money. So keep your eye peeled for that. I also have Mark Out, the wrestling card game that's available on Steam right now. And Justin, he didn't say it, but he has some games he's working on. One of them right now is called Division. So that one you can wish list on Steam. And he has one that's coming out even sooner called Nightwalk Simulator, which is also on Steam for wish listing. So the wish list help us out, even if you don't buy the game right now, because Steam looks at that and says, okay, this many people want this game, so let's push the game more. And all we need is that little nudge, just that one little nudge of a wish list can help us out big time. So appreciate you guys for that.
Absolutely. And I'm going ahead and linking it in the chat. The first I have
Very
is
cool.
Retro Game Store Simulator, tongue
Yeah.
twister. And then I also have Nightwalk Simulator linked in the chat. But thank you guys so much for this conversation. And like I said, we will be back with some more heat. Oh, that kind of it's like a slant rhyme. We'll be back with some more heat next week.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
All right, y'all. We're out of here.
See you.
Deuces.
You good. You good. I was able to find it. It opened up. I mean, the conversation kind of opened up possibilities. So I think it made sense. Then we had people engaging. People in the comments, they were talking, so it wasn't just a conversation for nothing. And we actually hit on some